Cynthia Erivo speaks out about Wicked, the Pattie Gonia lawsuit explained, and why are dot cakes creating discourse.
I'm Maggie Zhao.
And I'm Jasmine Wallace.
And you're listening to Culture Club, where two writers and editors chat about pop culture, current affairs, the internet, and our lives.
Today, we're on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nations.
We would like to pay our respects to elders past and present and extend this to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander listeners today. It feels like a fever dream that we actually watched Shannon Noll perform up in a plane just this week.
It actually was a fever dream. I was getting messages from people being like, what? This is so surreal. Like, it looks like a fever dream. I was like, imagine being in the dream. It was so weird. Mm-hmm. So explain what happened, please.
Yeah. For context, we went on a Jetstar party flight this week and we actually spent the week in Townsville. So we literally just got back last night and this was for their 22nd birthday. And what they did was they got Shannon Noll to perform because the year that Jetstar was launched was 2004, which is when he was on Australian Idol, famously came second. That is some of Australia's biggest pop culture lore. So if you're not from here, now you know. But we also played bingo, pass a parcel, and cup flipping games on the flight. So it was so funny and random and fun. It felt like a reality TV show.
I liked embracing the silliness of it all. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes you can feel a bit too serious in the world and it's nice to have a laugh. And Shannon Noll was a really great performer as well. Genuinely really like his music.
The way that I was telling my mum last night and then she just drops all this information she has retained about him. She's like, yes, and when he was on Australian Idol, his wife had just given birth. He came second, but they got some prize money and he said he's going to build a house. Don't fact check me. This is what my mum said, but I love it because his legacy is so strong here.
Yeah, he's an Australian legend in the pop culture lore, as you said. So that was really fun. And then we spent 3-4 days in Townsville, Queensland.
Yes. First time there. This is embarrassing to admit, but my geography can be so bad. And I was picturing, because when I think of Townsville, I think country music, right? Which is correct. Why did I picture a Route 86 kind of vibe? It was not that at all. It was tropical paradise.
You didn't expect the beach?
I don't think so. I don't think I was thinking too deeply. I knew that it was connected to the Great Barrier Reef, so I knew it wouldn't be too far off, but I don't know what was happening in this brain.
Well, there were rocky mountain faces, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it's tropical paradise. It was nice to get some sunshine and tropical vibes as we head into Melbourne winter as well.
And we've also lent so heavily into the sleepover vibe. This past month, we have spent 2 weeks actually sharing a room.
Sharing one room.
Yeah, sharing a room, single bed life. You know how it is.
Laurie was literally you could be having an affair with Maggie and I wouldn't even know.
Yeah, Laurie, watch your back. But we did really lean into the sleepover vibe. We watched some of Off Campus because you hadn't started watching at all, whereas I'd watched an episode and a half, but I so graciously rewatched them with you.
Off Campus is the show of the moment. I don't know why I was so behind. I just hadn't got around to it yet, but it is the biggest show in the world currently.
Well, world is big. I feel for a very specific group of Gen Z and millennials, it is the biggest show. I mean, you can correct me because actually the stats are showing that it has debuted really successfully. So according to Prime Video, where it is platformed, it is the third most viewed debut season of any series in Prime Video history.
It also has reached 36 million viewers in its first 12 days of streaming across the world.
Mm-hmm. So apparently the only other shows and series that have outperformed it are The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and Fallout. Literally, I don't know about either of them.
Oh, really?
No.
I haven't seen them, but
What's Fallout?
No, the name. It's based off that video game.
Sure. Okay, see?
Based off video game, dystopian future vibes. And it also is tracking above The Summer I Turned Pretty. And I think that's a good litmus of just how big it is because they kind of feel like they exist in the same universe.
Definitely. I feel The Summer I Turned Pretty gained traction as the seasons went on, whereas this already had heaps of hype because of its cousin show, Heated Rivalry. So we were all already sat for ice hockey bromance. Jazz still hasn't seen Heated Rivalry.
I feel so homophobic.
Yeah, you are.
It's actually bad.
Yeah, why are you watching the straight one then?
It's really slowly, and only because we are sharing a room. I definitely would not have started it yet if it hadn't been for that.
Mm-hmm.
I will definitely get to Heated Rivalry. I didn't watch any more of Off Campus last night. Like, it was working too late, but I want to get on it this weekend maybe. But we should actually explain what the show is about, because some people might not have watched it or heard of it, or maybe have only seen little things here and there. So it's an American romantic comedy drama created by Louisa Levy for Amazon Prime, as we said, but it's based on the off-campus books, which are by a Canadian author, Elle Kennedy.
Mm-hmm. And it is your typical romance plotline. It follows two college students, Hannah, who is a music major, who is like working to get scholarship, and she works multiple jobs. And then we have Garrett Graham, who is the star hockey player. He's like a Nepo hockey player. Yeah. And then essentially they have a fake romance relationship, and that will probably turn into a real one.
It's kind of like Anyone But You, how they're like enemies to lovers.
It's like
and they're
every
like,
rom-com ever.
Every rom-com, but I think definitely with this new wave of American romance book talk vibes, there's like the tropes. And people actually like look on the back cover, and it can sometimes say like enemies to lovers story, or like one
bed.
room.
One bed.
Like, that was us this month. I was hate watching it a little bit, and you were kind of getting mad at me because I was like commenting all the time. I just struggle with things that are super, super American, but it's like a guilty pleasure watch.
Yeah, you definitely have to lean into like the cringeness of it and how like saturated, I know it's not Netflix, but like it gives Netflix appeal. It's obviously not something that's super highbrow, but it is really fun. We are, again, as we mentioned, we're not finished the series yet, but it does grapple with some heavier topics as well. And people have been like, it's not as predictable as a storyline as you might think. So I'm enjoying it. What I find really interesting is that this is in the zeitgeist at the same time as Euphoria season 3. And these are two vastly, completely different shows, yet kind of trying to tap into the same audience, and to see the reaction from people via so differently, I think is really telling of like what people want right now.
Do you think that they're trying to tap into the same audience?
Yeah, Gen Z millennials.
That's such a broad audience though.
Yeah, I think that, think about Euphoria earlier seasons, it would have been like so on par, surely.
Yeah, I guess. I just think Euphoria was definitely darker.
Of course.
Of a vibe.
Yeah.
And like, I think Off Campus is much more like all American, like
True.
The tropes of like, I'm the theatre kid. I swear, I asked in the first episode, I was like, is this a musical? And she's like singing down in the basement of the hockey, what do you even call it, stadium. So it stars the newcomer Ella Bright as Hannah Wells, the musical theatre girl, and Belmont Camelli as Garrett. I really, really like Ella. I think that's one of the reasons why I will keep watching, because I'm intrigued by the actress. Ella Bright is only 19 and she's playing a 20-year-old, so very age-appropriate casting there. Belmont, who plays Garrett, is actually 28 years old, would have been probably 27 at filming. And a few people have been talking about the age gap. They were actually asked about it in an interview that I saw, and Ella said that she felt very safe, very comfortable. At the end of the day, they're just doing a job, and I think that happens often. Also, don't you find that young men, like say 19-year-old men, can look a lot younger than 19-year-old women? So yeah, you cast a man who's mid to late 20s to like even it, balance it out in the end.
I see that. But I do think Belmont, who plays Garrett, I always want to say like Graham. When there's two first names, it confuses me. But he does not look 20. Who is the age he's playing?
When we were watching it, I literally Googled like, how old is he? And I was like, I bet he's 27. And he was.
And yeah, I totally get concern around age gap relationships, but I think when we're talking about two actors like in a safe, controlled environment, like it's not an issue at all.
I have one more question for you on this topic. Why do you think that we are loving these shows that are so cookie cutter, almost tropey of like, we're going to start a fake relationship, but you know that they're going to get together in the end, and like, or not in the end, don't know if they're together forever vibes, but like it's like predictable. Do you think that we are gravitating towards those shows because they are like safe in a world that's so like chaotic at the moment?
Definitely. I think we always have this appetite for very sugary, very easy to digest content. It's why I'm constantly almost listening to an audiobook that falls into this genre that I just like put on, and it's like comforting, right? So comfort watches. But at the same time, I do think the movies that we have seen come out in the last couple of years have been pushing the boundaries a bit more and are challenging us. So I do think as people, we have appetite for both. But this is just easy.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes you do need to just escape into that magical US world that is like, college-esque, no real stakes. I mean, there is a theme of sexual assault in this show, which is, adds a bit of weight and depth to it, as you said. But you know that you're going to have a laugh, see some spicy scenes, then you can just turn it off and not think about it again. You turned it off in the middle of an episode because you were tired.
Yeah,
I can't do that.
I listened to my body. I'm like, I'm ready to sleep. But what was funny, that's why I was giggling, was every time there was like a kissing scene, Jazz would be like, ooh, spicy. And you did it like 5 times.
I think because I wonder with these like high school, college shows when they say like it's steamy, I'm like, but how steamy is this?
Yeah, it was pretty steamy. Boobs are out. Yeah.
I wonder if it's like college steamy. So it's like when they're kissing, I'm like, oh, wait, it's going somewhere. Okay, here we go. So we are only a few episodes in. So we will see. We will report back on our final thoughts when we eventually finish. I fear you will finish before me. But.
Yeah. And no surprise, season 2 has also been confirmed. Olivia Rodrigo has done her first in-depth interview for her upcoming album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love, that is out June 12. She was interviewed by John Caramanica and Joe Coscarelli, and it was a 90-minute sit-down interview. And I loved it. I love getting to see Olivia's mind in see her the way she thinks, the way she speaks, the way she views the world. She is so smart. And she's only 24.
What are her fans called?
Livies.
This is a big interview for the Livies and we will link it in our show notes if you want to watch the whole thing. What did she talk about in the interview?
Yeah. So because we don't have the album yet, this was a really good insight to what we can expect. And one of the things I found interesting is that this is much more inspired by 80s, 90s music, and it is going to be a lot more restrained than her typical pop punk leaning. So kind of that more edgy, kind of angsty girl that we've seen with her previous albums, it won't be as strong. How does that make you feel?
I'm looking forward to a bit more of a grown-up version of Olivia. A huge fan. I think I said this last week, but I sometimes found her a bit young. Like I didn't buy tickets to her concert because I was like, I just find her fandom and stuff a bit young, which is obviously so fine. So I'm looking forward to this album.
Yeah, she speaks about how she thinks that this album is her at her most mature in terms of looking at a relationship in all its complexities, right? It's not like, oh, you've wronged me and now I'm writing a song about it. There are way more layers, and we've seen that with The Cure. So yeah, apparently it's a less angry album, but there is one song about jealousy where she even calls herself like a petty bitch. She's not afraid to almost play the villain and kind of put on that persona as well. But I did like the other insights we got about her relationship and breakup with Louis Partridge. She has this line in that interview, and she wasn't directly talking about him, but I think she was, and she was like, you can break up with someone and still love them. And I do feel like that's probably what happened there. There's still a lot of speculation about their relationship.
Also in the interview, she talks about how she was inspired by the Sex and the City couple, Miranda and Steve, which is so rogue because they're not like the most couple goals and the most famous couple from that series.
Yeah. Yeah. A few songs, apparently like a few songs have been written inspired by them and their on and off relationship. She also talks about which Sex and the City character she is. Have you seen clips of this? Who do you think she would be?
I think she'd say she's a Carrie.
Yeah, she actually says Charlotte with a Carrie Rising, which I like. I feel like saying that you're a Charlotte is kind of like saying you're a Hufflepuff.
I feel like I'm the same.
Oh, what?
No, maybe that's too conservative.
Let's guess each other's.
Miranda, for you.
Thank you. Well, I was going to say you're going to disagree, I think, but like for you, Carrie with a Samantha Rising.
Whoa, Samantha Rising.
A little bit, like but like not.
I'll take that
explicitly.
I say Charlotte because I'm a lover girl.
Yes,
I'm married and stuff.
I'm married.
That's the only
stuff.
like
That's so funny.
That's the only trait. But I do think I have Carrie traits, and I'm not afraid to say that. I'm also not afraid to say that I'm a Marnie from Girls.
Yeah,
I'm so Marnie, and
That's
like
so
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm definitely Miranda, but with Carrie in her too. I think if you are if you work in media and you're writing or you're doing something public, like you have Carrie in you.
What about Girls for you? Like you're Shosh.
Really? I've only watched season 1 of Girls.
Oh, okay.
A bit
her
of
character
season 2.
like develops.
Okay. Because in season 1, I would say not.
No.
They all scare me, and I think that's the point of Girls. I'll come back to you when I've watched more.
In this interview, Olivia also references the baby doll dress controversy that we spoke about a few weeks ago. We're going to play the clip here.
I feel like I actually I have worn outfits that are like maybe revealing on stage. Like I've been on stage in like a sparkly bra and like little shorts and like, which is my right. That's fun. I felt cool and comfortable in that. And like that wasn't inappropriate, but me like fully covered up in a dress that people deemed to be like childlike was inappropriate. And I just think it just like shows how we just like really normalize pedophilia in our culture. And also, it's just this like rhetoric that we're fed as girls since we're so little, which is like, don't wear that because then a man is going to sexualize your body and it's your fault. Like, it's so weird. And, I didn't think that I looked sexy in that at all. I was like, this is so cool. I feel like I look like Kathleen Hanna or like Courtney Love, all these people who are my heroes. And I felt cool and comfortable in it. And like, I just think if we start dressing in a way that's like, oh, I don't want some freak to think that I like am sexy like a baby or like some crazy thing like that. Like I just think it's like losing the plot a little bit.
I'm glad that they asked this and spoke about it. I think it's important for her to share her own opinion on this because it was such a crazy discourse.
These interviewers are seasoned. They are incredible. One's a critic, one's a like journalist. And the questions they asked were so good. So we won't get into them too deeply, but they actually asked like why she didn't go to the Met Gala because there was a rumor that she had liked a post about like not going because she was protesting it. And she was like, you know, it's just like not for her. It wasn't fun or exciting. They even talked about Taylor Swift's feud with her. She didn't really give much on that. But, you know, these interviewers weren't scared to ask these like tougher questions.
Yeah, it's the New York Times Popcast, which I think is like the best music journalism that we have in the world, honestly. Like I know it's US, but like I think that they are both so talented at what they do.
And it is refreshing to see like two grown men take Olivia Rodrigo so seriously and like respect her craft, respect her music knowledge. Like they're not like, you know, they're throwing out all these references and they're not like dumbing it down for her or whatever. Like she's a young woman and I just love how much they respect her. And I hate that I have to say that, but it's true.
It is also refreshing to have some like proper journalism like in the music world because we have seen a lot of music journalism be essentially shrunk down into press junkets and like viral clips and just really quick like would you rather questions and stuff. And I understand that has its own purpose of like connecting you with someone, with an interviewee, but it's refreshing to like get a juicy bit of music journalism.
Of course. And at the time of recording, this episode was only launched 5 hours ago and it already has over 25,000 views on YouTube. And that will obviously continue to climb. And I think it shows that people are keen for long form journalism like this.
Cynthia Erivo is on a press run at the moment as she's on stage for Dracula, which is a one-woman show at the Noel Coward Theatre in London.
We've seen two bits of press really pick up traction this week, both of which are for Variety. Let's first talk about that YouTube video she was in. It's called Does Cynthia Erivo Know Her Lines? And it's like a game, I guess, where she guesses lines and lyrics from her most famous projects and songs and then talks about them, right? So she gets like a phrase, lyric on a piece of paper and she has to recall where it's from. What the internet is talking about is her reaction when a Wicked line gets called. Let's play it here.
Do you mind if we do another question that isn't about Wicked? Because I feel like I've spent the last 2 years talking about it and I think that we have an opportunity to start talking about something else. Is that okay? And I love Wicked, but I've just talked about it ad nauseum. Okay.
So interesting. You never really see celebrities be that transparent and say like, that press tour is over, I'm on to something else, especially something that really put you on the global map. Like obviously Cynthia had an incredible career pre-Wicked. She will have an incredible career post-Wicked, but Wicked was like the biggest movie, both the movies in the world for like 4 years or whatever it was. And you don't often see, especially women, feeling like they're allowed to say that. So I am like props to her.
Yeah, I agree. But I do think two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
So number one, I think her total right to say that and she delivered it so politely and so like firmly. Love it. But number two, this series is literally going through your most famous lines. You don't think they're going to bring up Wicked for this series where we talk about over like 10 different projects that you've worked on. I think it's okay to have a snippet where you talk about Wicked. I think about other actors who are part of pivotal series like Daniel Radcliffe and Harry Potter or bloody Twilight, people.
Twilight people.
Where they're still they still ask questions about it, years, decades on. I think it's okay to also just answer the question.
Well, she does answer it in the end.
And she does.
Well, clearly, I think the press around Wicked definitely impacted her. Like, that's what it's saying, right? Like, clearly that's like a bruise at the moment for Cynthia.
Completely. And she did a long-form interview write-up also with Variety. The piece is called How Cynthia Erivo Survived Wicked and Thrived. Quote, people thought I was being myself even though I was green. That was written by KJ Yossman.
In the interview, Cynthia speaks of that Singapore premiere where an Australian man, remember, vaulted over the barrier and grabbed Ariana. Cynthia said, nobody moved, so I moved because my brain went, get him away, get him out of here. My immediate reaction was, get him away from us. And what people couldn't see is that he wouldn't let go of Ariana. He wouldn't let go. So I just kept pushing at him to get off.
The writer also talks to the public response after this incident. And, a lot of people were praising Cynthia for being so protective and being so quick. But there were also a lot of jokes and memes that portrayed Cynthia as like Ariana's bodyguard. And here Cynthia talks about it. So she says, I think that we haven't really come to terms with the insidious nature of how we view Black women. And I'm sure people will read this and think, oh, for goodness sakes, it's not about that. But it is, because that's what was being made fun of. It was my physique. It was my shape. It was the fact that I was bald. It was about what I looked like. And because of that, there was this assumption that I was bigger than my co-star. And so I had to be controlling or protecting. And that was my role. I would hazard a guess that it would not have been the same had it been the other way around.
The article writes that by the time awards season rolled around again, Cynthia was, quote, done. The author also asks if the reverberations from the Singapore incident with Ariana put her off campaigning for an Oscar. And Cynthia says, I think maybe in a way it did actually. I just felt like my humanity had been bastardized. I felt like something I did instinctively had been made to be something that it simply was not because of the way people see women who look like me and because of the assumptions that are made. And I just didn't want to be a part of that, really and truly. I didn't want to put myself through it. I didn't feel like I deserved it.
So proud of her for being able to speak out about this incident. And it's something that required her to be quite vulnerable, like saying this, especially because it has been like, quite a few months after the fact. And she is, I guess, bringing it up again. Or of course, like the interviewer prompted it. But for her to, I think, bring her identity into the spotlight, like And for her to know that that's going to cause backlash, like she even says it while she's answering the question. She's like, oh, I know people are going to read this and think it's not about that, but it is. And the way that she can still stand so firmly on that is really, I would say, I'm very impressed by that. And it saddens me that she had to go through that while she was just trying to protect her friend. Now it's time for Culture Shock. And in this week's segment, we want to talk about why drag queen Pattie Gonia is being sued by the outdoor clothing brand Patagonia for trademark infringement. This is going to get confusing in this episode, but I think I'm just going to let's really say Pattie Gonia instead of Patagonia. So who is Pattie Gonia? Win Wiley is a performer who performs as Pattie Gonia. So sometimes we'll refer to them as Win. So Pattie is an American drag queen. And importantly, she is an environmental and LGBTQI activist and community organizer. So she's actually raised $3.7 million USD for nonprofits so far. It was really cool. Last year, she raised $1 million USD while hiking 100 miles in full drag.
Incredible. Millions of dollars raised. That's such a huge achievement.
So what is this lawsuit actually about? It was actually filed back in January. And I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, should we talk about it? But Pattie Gonia didn't actually say anything about it at that time. Now that's changed. She is no longer silent about it.
So the outdoor clothing brand Patagonia is suing Win for a, quote, nominal $1 in damages plus legal fees. And they took action after Win filed a trademark application in September to use the brand Pattie Gonia to sell clothing and promote environmental activism, which the brand Patagonia claimed it would harm their brand irreparably.
In their statement back in January, the brand said, while we wish we didn't have to do this and actively engaged with Pattie for several years to avoid this, it has become necessary to protect the brand we have spent the last 50 years building. We want Pattie to have a long and successful career and make progress on issues that matter, but in a way that respects Patagonia's intellectual property and ability to use our brand to sell products and advocate for the environment.
It is very ironic, isn't it? Because Patagonia, the actual name, obviously is from the geographical region which spans Argentina and Chile.
Like the fact that you've trademarked
like a geographical region.
That's not yours.
It's not yours.
And then going after somebody else who is using a name that is similar.
And also using it for good. Like this person is not like an oil baron or like a fuel fossil politician. They are actively trying to help the climate. So surely it's just good. Like this almost feels like the Barbra Streisand effect or the Streisand effect that we referenced a few podcast episodes ago, where like the fact that they're suing this drag queen is giving them more attention, and it's negative attention rather than just being like, oh, well, I know that corporations can't be like, oh, well, da, 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 da. There's so much that goes into it. But it's now getting negative press.
Yeah, it is getting negative press. And Pattie Gonia has 1.7 million Instagram followers. Like they've built like such a big following, but I hadn't heard of them until this court case. So in a way, hopefully they're getting more good press from this. One of the things that Win said in an open letter and a video on Instagram this past week is, quote, this is a betrayal of Patagonia's core mission, because if they're, quote, in business to save the home planet, why are they suing a climate activist? This is a corporation trying to erase an activist. This is how corporations bully individuals who cannot match their resources.
But Patagonia isn't as sustainable and ethical as people may think. Of course, it is a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Yeah, and I think that's a sticking point to this. Sure, Patagonia is B Corp and they've done some great initiatives and some great innovations in the outdoor space. But at the end of the day, this is like a highly profitable business. We'll now play a clip from fair fashion activist Venetia La Manna.
Instead of putting their time and energy into sorting out their supply chains, Patagonia is suing Pattie Gonia for copyright infringement, claiming Pattie is doing irreparable harm to their brand due to organising trail and hiking events. As Willow says, Patagonia is a place of wild beauty that predates all trademarks. To suggest otherwise is kind of giving colonizer, but what else should we expect from a billion-dollar business whose largest client for 40 years was the US military, that ignored a community on the front lines of the textile waste crisis in Ghana and has failed to pay all their garment makers fair living wages? To anyone who feels disheartened by Patagonia, Everlane or Allbirds, we have to stop putting so much faith in multinational corporations. So get out into your communities and start organising.
Maggie, I have a question for you today. Have you seen the dot cakes that are all over For You pages recently?
I have. I actually started seeing the backlash
Before the OG?
Before the happiness. I never lived through the happiness of the dot cake. From where I'm standing, it looks like some sort of sprinkle, like a flat sprinkle topped cake muffin thing.
You are correct. I saw these videos of influencers eating cake maybe last week before, started in the US. I saw the influencer Greta Louise Tomes video first, and then a few others popped up. And it was like ASMR. So basically these influencers go to the camera, they scrape a spoon across a frosted kind of vanilla sponge cake, and it's just hundreds and thousands, as we call them in Australia. And then they take a spoonful and they eat cake on camera, and they're like, it's so good. In Australia, we don't have any of the actual brand, which is the bakery, the Dot Cakes, which is based in Long Island, New York.
Wait, good on them. That's great publicity from them. I didn't realize it was an actual bakery. I thought it was just like a style of cake.
Yeah, so did I. So the co-founder and the baker began baking the cakes when she was in high school in 2017. And then when she was in college, her name is Alex Posner. She got so popular during college that she made it a business in 2019. The most famous of the Dot Cakes products is the Dot Cups, which is the description that I just told you of the soft sponge cake. And it's packaged in a single-use cup, which looks like a Yochi cup if you are Australian, like the frozen yogurt kind of round bowl thing.
It's like a tiny cake or a big cupcake.
It's not even it's like a type of cupcake, I guess, because it's literally in a cup this big. And so I was like, okay, cool. The Americans are eating, some new trend. I literally didn't think twice. Then Australian, people, influencers, content creators start baking their own at home and eating cake on camera. And it's gotten people really riled up. People are like, why are we doing this? I don't ever want to see a dot cake on my For You page again. And we were in Townsville and I was like, what is going on? Like, it's so funny. It feels like 2013 again of like a dessert going viral. But in 2013, there was no discourse. It was just like, everyone loves frozen yogurt.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of discourse from the environmental side of things. People talking about like how it's wasteful to be buying these disposable cups when you could be just making it in a muffin tray or in a cake tin.
Like, yeah, that's true. But like also people are getting Yochi and coffee cup. I'm not saying obviously every cup counts and it's good to reduce your waste. But it's funny when there's like something joyful on the internet, people are quick to be like, you shouldn't be doing that. Why? Why are we so angry about these dot cakes?
Yeah, I do feel like there is a double standard there because like so much plastic and single-use plastic has been so normalized, which obviously isn't a good thing, but it's like, why is your like maybe your daily coffee cup okay? Or like there's definitely been less criticism of that in recent years, but this like dot cake.
People are suddenly like about it again.
Yeah.
I guess it's like adding another, but surely people aren't getting this every single day.
No.
Like the same way they're getting a coffee.
Yeah.
This has actually made headlines in Australia. 9Honey like reposted Riley Hempson and Lexi Lobb, who are two Australian influencers, like New Zealand influencers, baking the cake. Like, is this
Slow news day.
a slow
That's
news
all I had to
day?
say.
We were like, will we even talk about this? But I think, yeah, it's funny to have a moment in time where people are like getting up in arms about a cake. Like, what are we doing?
I think also, okay, I'm going to hazard a guess that people are also like, wow, the way that people are so easily influenced that essentially this is a sponge cake with sprinkles and icing, and that it's made so many people be like, oh, I need to try this. Oh, I need to bake this, when essentially it's like nothing too new. I feel like it's just interesting to see how quickly a trend can sweep and cause so much like conversation
Within a week or something. It got me thinking about a Venn diagram of two topics that I've seen on the internet this week. So one is obviously dot cakes, people kind of being like, we shouldn't be doing this, like just cutting down people baking a freaking cake. And two, another viral clip from Diary of the CEO, Stephen Bartlett. So you might have seen this clip. It was actually in an episode from 4 months ago, but it's been making the rounds mostly on Twitter, which is where I first saw it. And it's an episode with Chris Williamson of Love Island. And in it, Stephen is telling a story about how drinking 2 glasses of wine ruined, literally says ruined, his life for 3 days. Stephen says, I had a couple of glasses of wine, didn't get drunk. It ruined 3 days of my life because of the domino effect it caused. I got worse sleep that night, and then because I got worse sleep that night, I ate more poorly the next day because my dopamine system or whatever, the cortisol system was all messed up. I podcasted worse. I didn't go to the gym that day or the day after because I felt really bad. I then slept worse. These 3 glasses of wine had this hidden domino effect that I must have been living with my whole life.
Oh my God. And they say women are dramatic.
I guess it is dramatic, but I also think it's another example of optimization culture that I really think has swept the Western world in the past 5 years, definitely post-COVID. I think it's as a response to the COVID pandemic, like when we were out of control with things in the health world, like we see it with the way that wellness industry has exploded post-COVID. One content creator, Tinx, she made a video on this, which I thought she had some great points.
I think it's really critical that we analyze what these thought leaders are saying, even in passing. And my belief is that the optimization culture has gotten out of control. It has robbed an entire generation of joy because of the demonization of fun. If you don't have a perfect sleep score, if you don't get up and have a green juice and go to yoga, oh, well, you're the worst. Oh my God, that's the worst thing that you could possibly do for yourself. Yeah, have you noticed happiness levels have been plummeting? Maybe that's because we're monitoring every single thing about ourselves.
Obviously, Tinx is really general. She's making big sweeping statements, robbed an entire generation of fun and the demonization of joy. These are all very rage baity kind of engagement terms and big sweeping generalizations. But I do think she has a point of the optimization culture that these tech bros, wellness people are positing on things like podcasts. And this is not at all talking about people who do have struggles with alcohol, of course. This is the person who goes out on a Friday night or has a average social life and then feels the guilt of well, I had 2 glasses of wine, but I had a great time with my friends, but I shouldn't be doing that because I didn't get a perfect sleep score. And then you can get a real spiral of wellness and health anxiety.
Oh yeah, I definitely think this is a big trend that's happening now. I see it not even these big wellness, business leader, thought leader people, but just in everyday life, just the way that we have conversations. I think that we're treating ourselves more as machines than people. We are living creatures who aren't supposed to be working at top optimization, productivity. That is not the main goal of being human. That is the main goal of a machine who is churning out outputs. And I hate thinking about my life or myself in that way. It is why I try to steer away from measurement. Metrics and stuff, whether that be knowing how much I weigh or obviously calorie counting or something like that. Or even sometimes I didn't want to look too much at my step count or whatever. And I know sounds it could be nothing. It could also just be oh, this is nice. So I like to know how much I've slept or how much I've walked or whatever. I try to disengage with the numbers that come with being a person.
Yeah, I feel like aside from the basics of like try to get 7 to 8 hours sleep and like try to drink 2 to 3 liters of water, like those like human basics. But we were talking about this at the dinner table in Townsville with like Oura rings, and some people on the table were saying like they love their Oura ring. It like really helps them feel like they know their body more. They really recommended it. While other people, mostly us, were like, but don't you get anxiety of like, okay, if an app has told me that I've had a bad sleep, therefore I will believe that I've had a bad sleep and I'll probably mentally like feel worse versus waking up. Maybe you did have a bad sleep. Maybe you did wake up more in the night. But if you don't know that, it's like basically being out of touch with your own body.
Yeah. And like on my perspective on that one is more like I want to critically think for myself whether I feel like I've had a good sleep or not, because the numbers might tell a different story. But I just want to know and be in touch with my body and be like, okay, like how do I feel about that sleep? I don't want an app to tell me how to feel. And in this conversation, like it's easy to measure things like productivity or like how many emails you answered or whatever, but it's harder to measure joy because it's more intangible. Like how many smiles did I do today, you know? And
that's so wholesome.
Yeah, but maybe that's why these values aren't as prioritized, but like just because you can't track it doesn't mean it's not important.
It's like the tweet that's like how many grams of protein are in a beautiful evening spent with friends.
Exactly.
It's now time for Bookmarks, where we share something we've loved watching, reading, or listening to this week. Maggie, you are up first.
I've got a podcast for us today. It is called The Grill. And this is a friend of the podcast, Izzy White, who I used to work with at Fashion Journal. It's her podcast that she has with her 2 friends, Ben and Tad. The thing is, they've had this podcast for like a couple years now, but excitingly enough, it got picked up by the ABC, and this year it's had like a whole rebrand and it's super fresh, and I'm loving it. It's a comedy podcast where the hosts bring like a little qualm from their week, and then they roast
like a pet peeve.
Yeah, a pet peeve, like a little complaint, and then they chat about it, and then they grill that beef and let it go kind of thing. And I'm finding it so funny. I think these 3 people, they're not comedians, but they are like so naturally funny. And they really, I think, are part of that Gen Z comedy, like TikTok culture community where like you just get it. Like it's almost like hyper local at times, but it really feels like you're in like a group chat of sorts. And I'm really liking it. They have new episodes every Thursdays. There's also a video on Spotify and YouTube. And it's just like makes me giggle. Like I'm not necessarily learning anything or whatever, but it's sometimes nice to just have a podcast where it's almost like a vibes podcast.
Our like media group chat that we're in, some of the girls have been saying that they can't listen to it in public because it's so funny. Yeah. Like they look a bit crazy laughing to themselves. So they reserve it for when they're home. So that's a great review.
I think for someone for their first episode to try, it's called Crowd Smurfing. I loved that one. How about you? What are you recommending this week?
The only thing I've watched is Off Campus. So I'm recommending kind of like a go-to that I read weekly, which is the Long Live Substack by the writer Erica Verink. I recommended her book Exit Lane a few months ago. This is the Substack that she writes. It's secondhand fashion made, quote, chic and easy. She describes herself as Nancy Myers, but with an eBay addiction. So I feel like that's perfect copywriting of like, okay, I know exactly who you are and what you do. Erica is based in New York. And I just really like her writing on fashion, on beauty, it's kind of like a writer writing about being a writer, which not everyone likes. And I think it's definitely like if you're interested in the world of media and writing, you'll probably like it more because it can be quite meta at times. But I just really like her voice, and I have heard that she's writing a second book. So I'm also really keen for that. So that's my kind of evergreen recommendation.
I understand why it's evergreen because it looks like she releases a Substack. Some of them are paid every second day. I'm shook at that output.
I pay for her Substack as well.
Awesome. My God.
Yeah,
That's very
it's her main like job, source of income.
cool.
So
Thank you. I hadn't actually heard of it, and it sounds up my alley.
yay, love that.
Thank you so much, listeners, for joining us on another episode of Culture Club. We've loved having you here. I know it's the end of the episode, but just a reminder that you can watch this on YouTube. So remember that for next time too.
Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.